With rare exception, I haven't experienced the feeling that sits with me as I think about this show all too often in the world of streaming. And maybe this is because streaming itself is such a boon of an industry that Hollywood is really trying to carve a space out of these days. Like, every studio is putting their bids on it with their own projects from a wide range of genres and styles. And maybe it's partly because I don't know, as somebody who covers entertainment content, I do have to keep tabs on a lot of the stream programs available today, and it is a wide range in regard to quality, from maybe the well-known franchises or series to maybe the lesser-known projects. It's a mixed space across the board in regard to reception and the quality of the art. But there are some shows that you watch within the midst of the streaming atmosphere that, based on their own merit, stick with you. I would say maybe a close approximation. Well, it's a very similar feeling, if not the same. It's just a different show in genre from what I'm talking about here. But Stranger Things, let's say. A new season drops, Netflix puts one out, everybody hops back on board. That was my experience with the last season, and you're enthralled the entire time. Yellowstone is the same way. Again, different genre, way different show. But it has that same level of captivation for me and reverence. But again, in the streaming industry these days, there's just so much content of a mixed variety that the shows like Yellowstone that are really beautiful just stick with you. And granted, again, like I've said, let's say in comparison to Stranger Things, I haven't spent as much time with this show. I'm relatively fresh in regard to being a viewer, and at this point, a big fan. I just recently caught up with all 4 seasons, which if you're looking to do so and you haven't seen any of the show yet, it is available on Peacock. I do find that kind of weird. Like, it's a Paramount show, and maybe it's because maybe some agreement I'm not aware of, or that this is broadcasting on TV simultaneously as the episodes become available on streaming. But, like, why wouldn't you put this on Paramount Plus? I mean, it would build your streaming service out, and on top of that, 1883, one of the prequels I'm working through right now, that's available on the streaming service right now. So why would you have Yellowstone on Peacock? Like, it just seems like an unnecessary split. But the first 4 seasons, of course, I've heard about Yellowstone for a very long time. Many people in my circles and people that I watch have talked about it. They've kept up with the show and they've really enjoyed it. I've looked at the ratings reports, and it was interesting to me to see where other shows have, let's say, nosedived. This show has steadily risen in viewers with each season, especially the 4th season. And from that, you've got, Paramount's really digging into not only the Taylor Sheridan content, but Yellowstone as a whole. Like, there's a whole line of projects coming out for this series. If they haven't already, like, let's say 1883, that was the first prequel. I really love this show, though. Not just based on, there's so many reasons to speak to its praises. The vision alone. Taylor Sheridan, I've not seen many projects of his stewardship, but he is such an excellent writer. His vision here with this show from a narrative, it's so sophisticated. And plus his performances, I haven't seen much of him in the way of an actor as well, but he's on the show, sporadically. But every time he's on, it's just such a treat to watch him. He's such a charismatic and really talented guy. Love his performances. But the show in itself, again, I'll talk about the writing more in a moment. The atmosphere of it alone. There are so many points when you start this series, and you're like, I just want to stop and pause. Like, it feels like a bit of a tourist journey through Montana. If you're into like nature documentaries, or you have a deep love for, let's say, the more ruralized areas of America, or you could say older style Hollywood films like Westerns, perhaps, this show will really appeal to you. There's so many points I'm stopping for here. And I will say, it does make me want to move to Montana, even though I have friends in Idaho and we're looking to move there, hopefully, at some point soon. I really want to move over there and get out of where I'm at now. Washington State is no Idaho. We'll put it that way. But Montana's like, you're a good second temptation. It's such a beautiful area, though. Just the atmosphere, again, of the countryside and just all the beautiful nature shots. There's just such a beautiful exploration of the area as a whole and the geography that in itself just brings you in from the first pilot episode. But the vision of the writing, it's such a sophisticated show, from beautiful performances across the board to great characters. What a dynamic family as well. From everybody in this role. Kevin Costner, of course, deserves all the acclamation in the world. He's such a talented guy, but the rest of the family, my favorites being Beth and Rip. Love those characters. Beth especially. Callie Riley, like, I'm sitting there back, why does she look familiar? I was thinking this for the first episode, and it occurred to me when I looked at her filmography, the Sherlock Holmes girl. She's so talented in this, though. She's playing a very complex character, but very, very well written one. all my respect in the world to Kelly Riley. I did not know how good of an actress she was, but this series has certainly done more to convince me than, I think anything else I've seen. And Rip is the same. Anyway, the performances, again, are great. The atmosphere is beautiful, but the writing itself, this is such a layered Western show. I mean, you not only have the cowboy dynamic, the agricultural side of a show in terms of like horse raising and the farming side. It's just... I love the overall atmosphere, but to dig down even deeper, the political side to it, it's such an amazing and dynamic release that I just feel this show, and it makes sense to me again why the ratings are so high for it. It just feels so original in the scope of what's available in streaming these days. You can't. The minute you start it, you're like, I just have to finish this thing. I had to stop myself several times, and like I watched probably about 5 episodes in a day, and like, no, I gotta, I gotta pause. I've already seen. I've spent so much time watching this. I know to space this out a little more, but it enthralled me from the first episode, and I've loved it ever since. So of course, I'm more than geared to go into season 5. I've been waiting in terms of the shows that I have to cover, and granted, I'm behind on a lot of content. I'm still in a catch-up phase, as I've been saying for many years, but I have been eagerly waiting for something. I would prefer a trailer, but it's a teaser at the very least, so it gives me a chance to talk about perhaps Yellowstone. And if you're somebody who's not seen the show yet, I mean, maybe you're clicking on this, I can understand maybe the perspective of, why are you jumping in right now, in terms of looking at season 5 and you haven't seen any of the first season, but perhaps, you're like, there's somebody else talking about Yellowstone, right? If you're interested, I'm sure you'll probably experience the same response as I've had with it, but I will put out a word of caution. When I approached the series, I'd heard people speak of it in regard to it being a conservative show. That's how it was termed to me. And that's not to say, I know these days we would normally attribute it conservative in the term of politics. I think you could say there's a feeling of that, but it's not the main concentration of a show. It's not a political watch. I would say that the term conservative applies to the atmosphere, but I assumed going in that meant conservative in content. In the case you want to hop into the show, I'm trying to give a word of caution here in that TVMA rating exists for a reason. If you're not familiar with Yellowstone, you might think, I might want to watch this with my family, with the lavish praise and some of the comments I've given it. You're going to want to reconsider that. It's a very gritty Western. Again, that's a staple element of the show. I'm not speaking critically of that. So you can expect, a lot of Western style cowboy violence. There is some swearing on the show, but maybe it'll look past that after a while. It's the, albeit brief, but pretty graphic nudity, which is kind of unnecessary, especially on the pilot episode. I'm like, I didn't expect that to pop up here. And as somebody who does prefer, I would say, more classy content, it was a bit of a grievance point with me. There's so many points I've had to look away, or at least for the first couple episodes. It kind of dwindles off, at least on later seasons. It is in the premiere episode, though, so just heed that if you're going in thinking, it's a conservative show in content. Not really. Atmosphere, yes. Tone, yes. Vision, yes. Maybe in taste, yes. Again, I could see this show appealing very well to audiences that perhaps might be forgotten by other Hollywood ventures. Let's say stuff that's especially existent within the streaming space and big franchises, appealing to the ruralized America. I think that's a real boon for the series. That's probably why there's such an uptick in the ratings, I would imagine. Although I think anybody, wherever you are in the world, I think it's a very open show in its atmosphere. I don't think it's exclusive to, rural America or more, city concentrated America. I think it fits anywhere. It's a very open show. It just feels so distinct in its vision. But like I said, just heed that warning if you're going in thinking conservative. Understand what you're in for a ratings perspective, or perhaps consult some, content reviews to best gauge, what you're willing to humor. Anyway, new season. Again, I prefer a trailer. Hopefully a trailer's on the way, but it's a first teaser. All will be revealed. What a tease. All right, all the drama. Here we go. Just any taste of this show I'm just wanting.
What we do.
Even if we're almost done with the teaser already. November 13th. Okay. We got, how many months to that? 2 months? Yeah, we'll probably get a trailer at some point. I would imagine we would. 2-hour premiere event. They do a simultaneous debut with streaming, don't they? Because I don't have broadcast TV. I hope they do. I think Peacock does. Anyway, why wouldn't you put this on Paramount Plus? It still makes no sense to me. Ideally, because you'd want to build up that show, I would imagine, if you're the Paramount Network. And given that, Taylor Sheridan, again, has done so much stuff in the way of... not just with Yellowstone projects, but other shows. I'm looking at actually a lot of his programs coming up in next couple of videos that are his work, and they're all on, for the most part, Paramount Plus. It's interesting to me, like, why wouldn't Yellowstone be there? That's like your flagship Taylor Sheridan show. Like, why would it not be there? Anyway, because now I have to subscribe for 2 different streaming services at the same time. Anywho, it's a good teaser. Again, like I said, characters in here. I mean, everybody's great. I mean, every character in this series is so layered to me, but Beth and Rip are the immediate draws. I mean, that tease as well with Beth at the end of the last season. Spoiler alert, if again, this is the first consultation for you with Yellowstone, you're like, oh, I'm just previewing, what it would look like if I started fresh. But the ending of the 4th season, be like, I've got, oh, shoot, I forget his name. Is it Wes Bentley or is it Luke Grant? I think it's Wes Bentley's character. I forget. Anyway, it's going to irritate me if I don't remember. Anyway, I'm just going to move on. Beth referring to him like, I've got this character under my control, especially with what he did to her. And Beth's backstory, again, tragic, dynamic character. Again, I love Beth so much. It's just such a well-written show that cliffhanger, I'm like, yeah, I need to get to season 5. I need to see what the turn for this is, in regard to how the characters move on from this point. I mean, I don't think Beth will. Poor Beth. I feel bad for her, but then I'm like, oh, but I like your dark side too. She's just such a great character. And then Rip. Oh, I love when they got... And the marriage scene, that was so funny in the last season. I loved it. Anyway, so original. Just like Beth. So unexpected. It's a short tease, but again, I've been waiting for an opportunity. You might be like, oh, why don't you just wait for a trailer to cover? I'm like, you know what? I want any chance to talk about Yellowstone and a new teaser. I'm looking for anything in particular, because I'm considering for somebody else out there. I'd be like, hey, I want a good streaming show to watch, but I'm kind of disappointed by what the majority of what else might be available today. I mean, there's of course good shows, maybe some I haven't seen yet, and some I'm forgetting the titles of at the moment, but you might be looking for a very engaging show. Yellowstone is that. Although, like I said, understand the content that you're going to be witnessing going in and know where your threshold is, but if you're looking for a show of a beautiful atmosphere and you enjoy the feeling of something very distinct in the realm of streaming today, Yellowstone is that show. And it just has that expression where you're watching it of the minute you start it, you just don't want to let up. You want to continue the story through all the different characters and the journey itself. Even as somebody, maybe in particular, if it's just me, looking at the show from a reflective lens of this isn't the life that I grew up with, even though I have really been yearning, it seems, and maybe in particular part of the show, this is what helped instigate more of a push for me to put myself in this position. But I sort of wanted to take a bit of a hiatus from like mainstream city life and float into what would be more attributed to ruralized agricultural countryside life. I've just found this world to me is so engaging that I would love to be a part of it. Yellowstone really gives me that. I mean, I had it before, I started watching the show, but every minute I watch this series, I'm so addicted to wanting to be in this world and manifest that in my real life. They're getting a taste for it and walking through that experience with the other characters. It's just an experience that every minute I've watched this series, it hasn't let up. And I would love to be able to manifest this type of life in my own... Maybe feelings will differ. Like I said, probably you're just looking at this like, well, you don't have to think. I'm like, I'm not looking that deeply into a show. I just want something engaging. If so, this show is more than satisfying. But I'm telling you, it's a really dynamic series, and I've just been craving an opportunity to speak about it. Hopefully, to maybe gauge possible interest out there for anybody else who's looking for something, along the lines of Yellowstone. But what are your thoughts? Again, really short tease. I'd prefer a trailer. We're probably going to get one eventually, closer to when we get the premiere in November. We got a couple months to wait, but I'm really looking forward to it. I need to continue the story. I want to know more. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. And if you're somebody in the position where you're like, I've not seen any of Yellowstone, is this promo sort of enticing to you? It's not even, I would say, very spoilery. I think it's enough to be like, well, it's a very short tease, but maybe you're in that position of wanting to, gauge your level of interest. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on it down below. And if you're interested, in fact, to start watching Yellowstone, or if maybe my comments have helped instigate that, I don't know. I'm hoping they have. At the very least, you could ponder it. Again, like I said, be wary of the content and what you're getting, and what your threshold is. But it's a very dynamic show, very entertaining, highly sophisticated programming. Absolutely love Yellowstone. Again, like I said, my level of reverence for it's not that persistent in the realm of streaming today. But I love it when it comes, and Yellowstone, as far as I'm concerned, certainly deserves it. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.